doing? This is I'm Kool Breeze. This is the Kool Breeze Show. And today I have my grandmother.
Hi.
She goes by MJ. Or you can just call her Miss Jolly.
Yes, either one works.
Either one works. I love my grandmother because she has, I think for our family, she is the maverick. She is the leader, I can't think of the word for it. But she's the oldest of 7, and she's kind of led the way for a lot of us to kind of do what we do. She's part of the reason I went into nursing. She became an RN, and she kind of came up in the civil rights movement. She didn't actually get involved with anything until she was about 26, like around the time when you started working.
Well, right. I had I was raised during the 1950s as I was just a child, and everything was segregated. And being raised in the South,
That's just kind of how
you're a child, and that's just how it was. And you didn't have anything to compare to think, oh no, this is not right, because I'm just a child. So I didn't even realize the effects of segregation until actually I was a young adult and was starting out, going to college and discovering, wait a minute, this is not how it's supposed to be.
Right.
Because I was always very, very studious. I mean, I took pride in only making straight A's. That is what I did. If I made a C, I was depressed for weeks. I was just an AB honor roll student all through high school, elementary, high school, and the whole 9 yards. And when I went to college, that was my first time being put in integrated educational system.
So all along you had kind of been
only in a segregated school system from kindergarten through high school. I graduated from high school in 1962 and never had anything but black classmates and black teachers.
Quick story. Tell the story about the 2 pools.
Oh, okay.
Yes.
I'm not sure exactly what year this happened, but it was in the 60s in Florida, Jacksonville, Florida. Everything, as I said, was segregated. There was a black pool, and across the street from the black pool was the white pool. And believe it or not, the neighborhoods, the black neighborhood and the white neighborhood, was separated by a street known as Jefferson Street in Jacksonville, Florida. And black people didn't go across Jefferson, white people didn't come across Jefferson, and everybody lived and stayed in their lane per se. And when President Kennedy was assassinated and President Lyndon Johnson took office, he started signing off on some of the civil rights legislation that was going to integrate society. And one of the things he did is, and like I said, I was a young, teenager or just out of high school, and they had to integrate the swimming pools. So, and to keep the black people from swimming in the white swimming pool.
Because the white swimming pool was way better.
The white swimming pool was better. It was bigger. It was more luxurious. It was white marble with like the little columns and the little fountains and the whole 9 yards.
They had fountains?
Yeah, it was really, really nice. The black pool was functional. It was a swimming pool, but it was red brick.
Oh, wow.
It was red brick, concrete block, and red brick trim. The white pool was, like I said, it had marble columns and it looked like a Greek fountain type little thing. But what happened was, when the desegregation order came down to keep the black children or the black community from crossing Jefferson Street and actually having the right to swim in the white swimming pool, the city of Jacksonville bulldozed the white pool down. Now, it's funny now, but it's tragic to think that they would deny themselves a swimming pool to keep blacks out.
That's crazy.
They bulldozed the swimming pool down. It's gone. Like in this place now, it was just an empty lot for years and years. Like now, it is a basketball court there. But yeah, that's what happened. I'm not sure what year, but it was in the 60s.
Now, down the street from the pool is where you got your first nursing job, though, right?
Down the street from the pool, on the white side,
right,
because it was quote unquote a white hospital. The pool had long been gone by the time the pool was gone. But in I'm a registered nurse. But before I became a registered nurse, I went to LPN school in 64. Graduated in 65. And at that time, I decided to get a job at a hospital called St. Luke's Hospital.
Oh, how'd you get the job? Remember your your classmate?
Yeah, my classmate was working there, and I happened to see her, and she told me that she was working at St. Luke's, so I decided to go and apply as well. So she was the first black nurse to work at St. Luke's. I was the second black nurse to work at St. Luke's, and I was working labor and delivery from 11 at night until 7 in the morning. So yeah, that was interesting because one or two of the doctors was asking me why was I choosing to work at St. Luke's, as if, you know what I mean, they hired me and I worked and it was no problem, except they was thinking it was a black hospital across the street, and they said, well, you could just go over there and work.
Why are you here?
Exactly. Why are you invading our territory?
Now, there was 2 cafeterias, right?
There was 2 cafeterias because this one was segregated. The only black employees at that time were not any professionals. It was the laundry workers and the housekeeping workers. And so they had 2 cafeterias because everything was segregated. Black people didn't go to the same bathrooms and didn't go to the same. You went to a restaurant, you had to go to the back door, and they just served you takeout. You couldn't go inside and sit.
Oh, so y'all had the coronavirus before anything.
Well, needless to say, the way my dad was, we didn't go to restaurants.
Oh yeah.
His thing was, if we can't come inside and sit like everybody else, I'm not spending my money. So we didn't. If we traveled, my mom always packed. My mom always packed the lunch. So, one of my granddaughters, Miss Michaela, she asked me, did I go to a McDonald's when I was a little girl? Nope, I didn't go to a McDonald's when I was a little girl. Did not have the pleasure of going to a McDonald's when I was a little girl.
Like now, McDonald's is all through the hood, but like then, McDonald's.
Well, there was no McDonald's in my neighborhood. No. That was number one. No, there was no McDonald's in my neighborhood. And if I had gone into another neighborhood, I would not have been allowed in the McDonald's.
Right. Now, the cafeteria was set up for the professionals and the janitor.
Well, they had a white cafeteria and they had a black cafeteria. Yeah, so yeah, they had to scrap that, and they closed the black cafeteria.
Why did they close it?
Well, because the President Johnson at that time was, in order to keep federal funding, the hospitals had to integrate, and so they didn't have any choice. They was getting federal funds from the federal government. So Lyndon Baines Johnson.
Was it open? Was the cafeteria open during your shift?
Not during my shift. I was working at night. I was working from 11 at night to 7 in the morning.
But the other nurse, it was open during her shift, right?
It was open during her shift. Yeah.
Did she ever try to eat in there?
Once it was desegregated, yeah, she ate it. It was no problem. She ate in there, yeah. Because she was professional, she wouldn't go to the black cafeteria. She never went to the black cafeteria. Before they closed it. They eventually they closed it. But when it was up, they closed the black cafeteria. But the way they had to set up, if the house, it was part of their employee benefit. The laundry, the blacks that worked in the laundry and housekeeping, their lunch was free. They didn't have to pay. So, but they closed the black cafeteria, and then that meant everybody could go to the white cafeteria. Black people still didn't go. The black staff, except for my friend Annette Watley, she went to the white cafeteria because she paid. But the other blacks, they were angry because they were getting free lunch. Now they gotta pay because it was integrated. So they never went in there anyway because they were like, we're not paying. They're like, we're not paying. So, but that was funny. But no, I didn't never go to the cafeteria because I was not on that shift.
Oh, yeah. Now, when it came time for you to actually, you actually got to work. What are some of the things you had to deal with from like your counterparts, the other nurses?
Well, at St. Luke's, I didn't have any problems whatsoever. Although this was like in the 64 to 65. I didn't have any problems whatsoever. Everybody treated me with respect. Of course, like I said, this was the night shift, and on the night shift, it's not. And I was in labor and delivery,
right. So
we were there to deliver babies. And I guess nobody had time for any racial stress because, like I said, I knew my job. My job was if a patient came in to the emergency room in labor, because I was the last person hired, I was the new guy. I was the new nurse. So my job was to go downstairs and bring the patient upstairs to labor and delivery. Once I got the patient upstairs to labor and delivery, my job was to monitor that patient, taking vital signs, ever how often, whatever the protocol was, and monitoring when the patient was ready to deliver, and then taking the patient to the delivery room, setting up, assisting the doctor with the delivery, and cleaning up the labor and delivery room for the next delivery. I think they had like 3 or 4 delivery rooms. I don't remember exactly, but it was at least 3 or 4. Because sometimes we had 2 deliveries going on at the same time. So you actually definitely needed more than 1 labor and delivery room. And I think they had 3 or 4. I don't remember exactly. But so that was what I did. And like I said, I didn't have any problems whatsoever. The only problem, I didn't have any problem from my staff, from the other staff. I had one problem with one patient, and it was kind of funny, but it wasn't racial. It wasn't a racial problem. I went downstairs one night to get this little lady, and of course, during this time, they was gradually integrating. So all of the patients were still white. We didn't have any black patients just yet. Black patients began to slowly come in, but at this present time, all the patients were white patients. So I went downstairs to bring this lady upstairs. And when I got there, the lady was ready to deliver. So I'm pushing her, I'm trying to get her on the elevator, and a labor pain hit. And I asked the lady, I said, ma'am, please, don't push.
Don't have this baby right here.
Please don't push. Just let me get you upstairs to the labor in the living room. The lady looked at me. In fact, there is protocol, nurses will know this. If you're having a labor pain and you pant like a puppy dog rather than push, that'll, keep you from pushing. So you pant. I said, pant like a puppy dog. The lady looked at me. The lady said, you pant like a puppy dog. I'm pushing. That was my first. I had to deliver the baby. That was my first delivery that I ever did. Was I delivered this little baby. And when the baby came
in the elevator.
I didn't make it to the elevator. Oh. I never made it to the elevator. We were still in the hallway. And the lady pushed. The baby was born. When the baby came out, the umbilical cord was wrapped around the baby's neck, so the baby was blue. So now I'm thinking, baby not breathing. So now I'm thinking, this is why I want the lady to wait till we got the labor in the living room. So now I got to think quick on my feet to save the baby. So I took my finger and I put it between the baby's neck and the umbilical cord, and I pulled the cord. And of course, that was very painful to the mom. But honestly, at this point, I asked her nicely what to do to help me out, and she did not do it. So now you get what you get. But anyway, I got the cord from around the baby's neck, and I got the baby and got the baby breathing again, that was what my job was. So I did what I was supposed to do as a nurse. And I got the baby and the mom upstairs to labor and delivery, upstairs, and then the doctors kind of took over. So here the doctor looks at me and says, what time was the baby born? I looked at him, I said, 10, 15 minutes ago, you pick.
Oh my God.
You pick.
That sounds scary.
It was scary.
Yeah. You know what? I'm glad I didn't go into that.
But some things is a learning experience for future situations.
Now, eventually you would end up transferring to a hospital, not transferring, but going to a hospital in Orange Park.
Correct.
And now you were the first nurse in that hospital, right?
I was the first black nurse This was after I was no longer an LPN. I had gone to college. I went to college when I was, I think, 22 years old. I went to college to become a registered nurse, and I graduated. I went in 67, 66 or 67. I graduated in 1970.
In between then, she had my dad. You know what I'm saying?
No, yeah.
I played that when I was finna.
Yeah. His dad was born in 68. In fact, about it, your dad, I was in college. He's my college baby because I was married. I was married when I went to college. I was married with 2 children. And your dad is the third child. And so I had 1 year left to graduate, a year and a piece of a semester left to graduate, and then I ended up getting pregnant. So I went to school as long as I could. And then your dad was born in December of 1968. And I went back to school in the spring, which would have been like March or April or something like that. And then of 69, and then I graduated a year later in 1970. And we moved to Orange Park. We moved from Jacksonville, we moved to Orange Park. So I decided I didn't want to drive to Jacksonville, just easier just to go to the hospital in Green Cove Springs. So I applied, they hired me. I went to work down there in the beginning of
Quick question. Is that the one that when you walked in, it was like, you're married?
Yes, because I lived in Jacksonville when I actually interviewed for the job. I don't know if he was desperate for a nurse or what, but the DON, she interviewed me over the phone.
DON is Director of Nurses?
Director of Nurses. She interviewed me over the phone, and because they never had a black RN. And she said to me, now we need an RN. I said, I'm an RN. Maybe she was thinking there were no black RNs in America. I don't know what she was thinking. I don't know what she was thinking, but she said, you're hired. I said, yay, I got the job. I got the hours I wanted, I got the salary I wanted, and it was perfect. We had just bought a little house down in Orange Park. So I go to work that first day, and she told me, she said, when you come in, she said, it was a small hospital, only had 2 units. They had what they call the old unit, they had what they call the new unit. And all of the action was on the old unit. So she said, you go to the nurse's desk at the old unit, and you tell them, that you're here, and then I'll come out and meet you. So I go to the desk, and there's this little, and of course everybody was white, because I'm the only black nurse. But they did have some black CNAs and some black people who worked like in laundry and stuff like that, but they didn't have any black nurses. So when I get to the desk, and I say, I'm Marilyn Thompson, the little lady never even looks up at me. She says, well, we're not hiring. And I said, well, I'm already hired. She said, well, what department? I said, nursing. And that's when she looked up. And she said, nursing? I said, yes. She said, well, just have a seat over there and I'll get somebody to come. So the DON came and she spoke, and so she said, you're Marilyn Thompson? And I said, yes. She said, you told me you were white.
Did you tell her you were white?
I said to her, you asked me about my nursing license. And she did. She asked me about my nursing license, and she said to me, read your name just as it's printed on your nursing license. And my maiden name is White. So I said to her, my name is Marilyn White Thompson. All she heard was white. Because there was no black RNs in Florida at the time, apparently. All she heard was white. And she said, yeah, you told me you were white. I said, no, I didn't tell you I was white. You asked me my name, and I told you my name was Marilyn White Thompson. She said, oh, okay. And I showed her my nursing license, and that was confirmed. That was my name. That's how it's printed on the license. And so she said, well, okay. She was real cool. I mean, she was. After she, discovered I wasn't white, she was real cool about it. And she said, well, I am going to assign you to the new wing. And she walked me down, and she showed me the new wing and everything, and then she told me what day to come and report to work, because that was just my first day of getting all my paperwork and I guess the drug test and all of that kind of stuff. So when I went, I reported to work the day I was supposed to report to work, and she told me to go to the new wing, and I went to the new wing. And when I got to the new wing nurse says, "We don't need you. There's no work here for you to do. You go to the old wing." Go to the old wing, and the old wing said, "You're not assigned to us. They was happy. You're not assigned to us. You're assigned to the new wing. You need to go back down there." So I go back to the new wing. Now I'm getting exercise walking up and down the hall, right? So I get to the new wing, second trip. They said, "Well, we told you we don't have any work for you." So I said, "Okay." So I go to the lobby. I get a magazine, because I've already clocked in, so I'm getting paid. So I go to the lobby. I get a magazine. I'm sitting there, I'm reading the magazine. So about 9 o'clock, the DON shows up, and she's coming down the hall to check my progress. And she sees me sitting in the lobby. And she says, "What are you doing sitting in the lobby?" I said, "Well, I went to the new wing. They said they didn't have any work. Went to the old wing. They said, you're not assigned to us. You're assigned to the new wing." Went back to the new wing. They said, "We told you we don't have no work for you, so I'm here in the lobby." So she takes me to the new wing. And she says, "This is the nurse that I just hired. And give her an assignment." So they said, "Yes, ma'am." So they gave me an assignment. They didn't give me a nursing assignment. They gave me an assignment to do CNA work, which they did that thinking I was going to quit. Now, I'm not a stranger to work. So they gave me a list of patients that I was supposed to bathe and feed and just whatever a nurse's aide do. So I did it. Happily did it, because why? I was getting paid RN salary. I didn't have to talk to a doctor. I have to do medication. I have to do anything. So I did that for about 3 days. And didn't say anything to the DON. I just did my assignment. And so she came down to check on me. And I was doing CNA work. And she hit the roof. She grabbed me up and she says, "When I told you to give her an assignment, I meant for you to give her a nurse assignment." And then she turned to me and she said, "Why did you do it?"
I'm saying.
I said, "I did my assignment." I said, "They gave me an assignment and I did my assignment." She said, "Well, you're being paid as a nurse and you're going to do nurse work." So then she had them give me a nursing assignment. And I did the nursing assignment. But yeah, I did that. But they still, for some reason, I did that. I got because I'm a devoted nurse, so I'm going to always do my job. My philosophy is always outwork position. So whatever job you're doing, you just do your best and always do more. So you just excel, and that's always been my motto anyway. So I raised up, in the ranks, and until I became. She'll say I was the charge nurse, and it didn't take long for me to become the charge nurse.
That's the nurse right under the DON?
No, that's the nurse who's over the unit.
Oh, okay.
Right under the DON is the assistant DON. Okay. But the charge nurse is the nurse who's over the unit, who is in control of whatever happens. She makes the assignments, she takes care of everything, she's over the unit. So that was the position that I had, which along with a nice raise, so that didn't hurt.
You see a couple coins in your pocket.
So what happened was, when I became charge nurse, several of the other nurses, they actually quit. They actually quit. They said they're not going to work with me, so they actually quit. So they got replaced, and it didn't take long to replace them. But we had this one nurse on 11-7 that apparently she couldn't afford to quit, and she was extremely racist. She wouldn't speak to me after I became charge nurse. She didn't have to speak to me before I became charge nurse, but when I became charge nurse, now she has to give me report on the patients. But she wasn't going to speak to me. So I would get to work, and she would write the report out on a piece of paper, and she would have her purse on her shoulder. And when I show up, she would give me the paper, and she would walk out. And I open the paper, and it's report, and it's a thorough report. But my point is, suppose I got a question. As one professional nurse to another professional nurse, suppose I have a question. I can't answer the question. She gone home. So the second day, I'm going to get an opportunity to say to her, I don't want a written report. I want a verbal report. And then I may have a question. So the second day, before I could even get that out of my mouth, she gives me this paper and she gone again. So she was quick. When I looked, I got the paper and she's gone. I was like, and I opened the paper, and again, a very thorough report. So I said, well, okay, it's only one way to stop her. So the third day, as soon as she gave me the report, I ripped it up and threw it in the trash. Her first word she ever spoke to me was, "What are you doing? That's the report." I said, no, I had my pad and my pen. I said, no, the report is, when you verbally give me the report, I could write it myself. I don't need you to write the report for me. So she gave me a report. Brought her back to me. She would turn her back, she would position her chair, she would turn her back, and she would give me a report. And so I'm looking at her back, and I'm taking report. And now you know I got to mess with her, right?
You have to. It's an absolute must.
Because I mean, she started it, right? Every patient, I got 50,000 questions. I'm like going home at night. I'm like looking at all of these diagnoses. I got a medical book home called The Tabor. I'm going through the Tabor. I'm like, okay, let me ask this question.
Oh, what was the setup?
Just to harass her. Just to harass her and all. But anyway, so finally she quit.
I didn't notice.
Finally she quit. And finally she quit. And the new people that was actually coming in, being hired, they knew that there was a black nurse, and they did not have a problem with it. So we got rid of all. we gradually weeded them out. But
and that's how you take over.
And that's how you do it. But you always got to do your job, and you have to be professional. And you have to treat people. I always treated everybody with respect. Even when they were not giving me proper respect, I still gave them proper respect. I never had anyone at that facility call me a racial slur. Now, behind my back, that I don't know. I'm saying to my face. No one never did that.
That goddamn nigger nurse.
No one ever did that. They never did it. Not to my face.
Right.
Not to my face. And about a year or so, I was there from 1971 until 1973. And after I had been there for about a year, I decided to buy a new car. And I drove it to work. And I parked in the employee parking lot, and I was coming through the back door. And the laundry worker, the white lady, she saw me getting out of the car, and I walk in, and she said, "Good morning." I said, "Good morning." And she said, "Let me ask you a question." I said, "Yeah." She said, "How can you afford that car on your welfare check?" So I look at her and I said, "Oh no, I can't afford that car on my welfare check." I said,
Wait, were you on welfare check? Were you on welfare?
No, I wasn't on welfare.
Oh, okay. I'm sorry. Continue.
It's the stereotype.
Right.
All black people on welfare. It's a stereotype. All black people on welfare. When the reality of the situation is, it's because it's more white people. It's more white people on welfare than it is black people, because it's more white people.
Right.
But she's been brainwashed and programmed that black people are on welfare. So if I got a new car, apparently I'm on welfare. So I just smile and say, my welfare check can't pay for this car. I say, I sell drugs out of my garage on the weekends. And I go to and start doing my work. So about lunchtime, the director of nurses, she comes by my office. She sticks her head in the door. She said, "Good morning." I say, "Good morning." She said, "Well, I heard you're selling drugs at your garage on the weekend."
Yeah, I say you gotta pitch a little down.
And the both of us laughed about it, and she went about her business. So I got reported for selling drugs. I mean, come on. But yeah, I stayed there for 2 years, and I pretty much, little incidents like that, you know. And then all of the doctors, it was only like 6 doctors because of a small hospital of Clay County. There was this one doctor named Dr. Stevens. I was because really, I don't know if they were really trying to test my skills as a nurse, or if they were really trying to chase me away. But at some point, they decided that being the charge nurse of the new wing wasn't challenging enough. So I got another promotion, more money of course, but another promotion, and I was in charge of the old wing. And the old wing, well, first of all, the new wing was just med surge, medical surgical.
Basically meaning you're just passing out meds.
Yeah, and treatments and stuff like that. But the old wing was where all of the other nursing stations was. It was only the old wing that was the emergency room. So now one nurse now, right? One little black RN, the charge nurse. I'm in charge of the emergency room, labor and delivery, and post-op. Three different categories.
Why would they put all three of those on the same side? Are they usually like that?
Well, okay, this was a little country hospital.
Right.
And the reason this was the old wing was because when the hospital was built, they put the emergency room, the labor and delivery, and a nursing unit was in one little section. As the county grew with population and they added on to the hospital and they added, quote unquote, the new wing, that's when they added the med surge part on the other side. They kept the emergency room, labor and delivery, and post-op down on the old wing. So whatever nurse had the old wing, they always had two nurses. They always had two nurses, except for when they sent me down there. I was down there by myself. I was in charge of labor and delivery, emergency room, and a post-op unit. Now, I was just in charge. There was other nurses working.
Right. But they usually had two.
They had two charge nurses. The charge nurse had a charge nurse assistant, and still they had other nurses working. I did not get an assistant, but I did have a nurse that was in the emergency room, and I did have a nurse that was responsible for the unit, and also there was a nurse that was in labor and delivery. And because I was in charge, wherever anybody needed any help, like if the emergency room nurse needed, I was there. If the labor and delivery person, then I went there. So that's how kind of we did it. But I didn't have anybody to quote unquote relieve me. So one day I had a patient that, for whatever reason, I was in labor and delivery by myself. I don't even remember why, but I was in labor and delivery by myself. And I checked the patient, and the patient was ready. I felt like she was going to be delivering in like 30 minutes. The doctor was in his office about 15 or 20 minutes away. Excuse me. So I called him, and I said, Dr. Stevens, your patient is ready to deliver. He said, no, she's not. I said, I'm here. I just checked her. You're in your office. You can't I'm telling you she's ready. He says, well, I just don't think that you checked her correctly. And I want you to have Linda, which was a nurse from the new one. She was even on my unit. She was a nurse from the other unit, the charge nurse from the other unit. He said, have Linda come and check her and then call me back. So Linda came, Linda checked her. Linda said, I'm sorry, MJ. She says, I just don't agree with you, which is her prerogative. She says, I don't think she's quite ready yet. So Linda called Dr. Stevens and said, well, I don't think she's quite ready yet. And so Linda went back to her, and I went and checked the patient again. Because I'm thinking like, well, maybe, I checked the cervix, but maybe I didn't, measure correctly or whatever. So I went back, I checked the patient again. And no, I confirmed that everything was just what I thought it would be. And so I called him back. And now he's angry. He says, I don't have time for this. He says, I got an office full of people, and I don't have time to be running up and down the road. And Linda already done said. And I said, sir, I don't care what Linda said. I said, Linda is wrong. So he hung up the phone on me. So I was like, okay, I'm getting ready to deliver a baby. He's not coming. I got to do what I got to do, right? So about 5 minutes later, his office called, and his nurse called up to to warn me, to have me prepared.
He on the work after he come.
Yeah. She called me. She says, MJ, she says, he's on the way. I said, oh, he believed me. She said, no. He don't believe you. He's coming to prove you wrong. I was like, oh, okay. Well, if he's coming, and I've double-checked the patient, and I'm sure I'm correct, and I'm not being arrogant, my training says, yeah, this is what it is. And so he's coming, good. I want him to come. So by the time the patient is about ready to crown, which is the baby's head almost about to come out, I moved the patient from labor and delivery. I got the patient out of the labor room. I got the patient in the delivery room. Like, we getting ready to have a baby. So I'm not a doctor, but hey, I'm figuring it's easier to have her on the delivery room table than have her deliver in the bed. So I got her prepped and ready. We're ready to go. He bursts in the labor room, in the delivery room, just in time enough to deliver the baby. And he looks up at me. He says, doggone it, you called it just right. And he said, I am so sorry. He told me, he said, I came because I did not believe you. He said, but now, whatever you say to me, he said, I trust you. And just as a private joke between the two of us, now he's the doctor, I'm a nurse. His nickname for me was Dr. Thompson. He started calling me Dr. Thompson. He started calling me, like I said, just a private joke between the two of us. He started calling me Dr. Thompson. And I think that incident kind of like cemented it for pretty much everybody else, that they could now have confidence in the skills of a black person. I'm not the smartest black person it is, obviously, in America. It is many, many black people that's so much smarter. And all black people want is just a chance. We don't want to be treated differently. We want the same rights and privileges as everybody else. And so, yeah, he started calling me Dr. Thompson, and that kind of like opened the door a little bit, and other people, started showing, a little more confidence in my ability and stuff like that. So it worked out real well.
How long did you end up nursing total? Because I know you retired.
Total. Oh, yeah. Well, I retired in 2004. So probably, 36 years, 37 years, something like that. But yeah, I mean, sometimes when I was down in, I valued my experience when I was down at that little small country hospital, because they didn't have all of the modern technology and all the kind of stuff like a big major hospital. And I learned so much there about nursing and about procedures and drawing blood and all of this kind of stuff and recognizing symptoms. Again, I'm not a doctor, but you got to be able to recognize a certain symptom. So when you're talking to the doctor and you're explaining to the doctor what's going on with the patient, you got to paint them a picture.
Right.
And if you don't know what you're talking about, how are you going to paint the doctor a picture? And like I said, me and Dr. Stevens we were just like this. And something would go wrong with one of his patients. I would call the lab and I would say, I need a fasting blood sugar, or I need a blood sugar stat. And the lab would say, do you have a doctor's order? Don't worry about it, I can get it. Because if I call Dr. Stevens and say I had to order a blood sugar on one of your patients, now obviously I'm not going to be doing no brain surgery or nothing, but I mean, I'm ordering lab work like I'm the doctor, right? But it was Dr. Stevens, and he knew that if I ordered something, a nurse has to work from a doctor's order. So I'm ordering stuff and I don't have a doctor's order. But he knew that my assessment skills was at that level that I was not going to be frivolously ordering stuff without his knowledge. And if it was like something that was real important and I needed it right away, by the time I called him, I would say, look, I ordered this, such and such. Her blood sugar is this. I need an order for that. I need a doctor's order for that. He was like, you got it. Just verbal order. I'll sign it when I come in. That type of thing. So, yeah. But, yeah, I stayed there for 2 years until I moved back to Jacksonville and started working for the health department.
So, obviously, this is for everybody in the country, but what is, like, the main takeaway that you would have for, like, young people in any profession when it comes to, like, being extremely proficient? Because obviously we have to work twice as hard.
Be prepared. If that means going home on your own time, studying, learning, then that's what you do. When you go to work, be prepared. And that's what I always did. But I would say whatever your job is, know your job, outwork your job. That's how I got promoted over nurses that had been there because I was willing to work. And the DON said to me, she said, when they gave you that assignment as a CNA and you did it and did it well, she said many nurses would not have done that. They would have rejected that. No, I'm not emptying a bedpan. I'm not bathing anybody. I'm not feeding anybody. I am a nurse. But the first nurses in America were hands-on nurses. So that's part of being a nurse. So yeah, I did it. And plus, like I said, it was the easiest assignment I ever had.
Well, this is the Kool Breeze Show. What we gonna call you? We gonna call you Granny Breeze.
No. You know I don't like
Mother Breeze.
You know I don't like Granny. You would call me grandmother, right?
Yes.
That was the reason why you was calling me grandmother. Because I don't like Granny.
Now, though. We ain't gonna call you Granny. Graham Breeze.
Graham Breeze.
Graham Breeze, like a Grand Prix. This is Homie Kool Breeze. We out.